Commissioner at the Ministry of Water and Environment, who communicated he was en route, and because we had to begin, we continued, but we are very, very honored and delighted to have your presence. Mr. Nicholas, we're thankful that you've come in representation of the Ministry of Water and government for that matter. We are so grateful. Thank you for coming to share your mind with us as the government representative, and we shall believe that your time with us will be very fruitful. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to go forth with our next item, or rather our next speaker, who is going to be gracing us with more knowledge and wisdom in regard to the World Environment Day, ending plastic pollution. With us, we have a holder of the Bachelor's of Laws degree and an advocate enrolled to the High Court of Uganda, who has a postgraduate training in French and environment and climate change management. Her career, spanning 20 years of working experience in the UK, Europe, and Uganda, has been focused on the environment and inclusive and sustainable development. She is the co-founder and director of the Green Building Council, Uganda, and as a member of the World Green Building Council, she has led the movement to raise the profile of the built environment as a critical factor in climate change. She is also a member of the World Green Building Council Africa Regional Network Policy Working Group and a member of the Climate Adaptation Hub. She is a member of the Uganda Water Resource Institute's National Organizing Committee. She is also an advisor for Machindye Savugabo Metropolitan Development Forum, and most recently, she led the Ugandan delegation from Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development and National Building Review Board to the Future Cities Africa Green Building Summit 2024 in Lagos, Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, with such an illustrious CV, allow me welcome Advocate Gertrude Muwanga, the ED of Green Building Council, Uganda. Thank you so much. A round of applause as she comes. The CV is too big. You're most welcome, ma'am. Sorry.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. My name, as I told you, is Trudy Mwanga, or Gertrude. Everyone calls me Trudy, so you can call me Trudy when the questions come up. Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity to speak with you and to contribute to the important conversation as we mark World Environment Day under the theme Ending Plastic Pollution. Insofar as my work is centered on the built environment, I'll be looking at it from the building and construction sector perspective. I speak today on behalf of the Green Building Council, Uganda, GBCUG, and want to pose a question that challenges all insofar as we are now undergoing a process of very rapid urban development, very high population growth, and intense increase in the level of pollution, whether there is air, water, and plastic. So the question is, are the laws that we have in place fit for the purpose of protecting the environment amid the growing urbanization, the population pressure, the plastics pollution, and the public health risks each of these pose? Whilst we're not going to get into the weeds of all the laws, I think it's important to understand the role that buildings can and do play in this process, and the construction can and does, the opportunities that construction and construction professionals offer to the possibility of addressing some of these issues. It's a blind spot, and one I hope to see that we eventually overcome? This is not just a legal question. Resilience. In short, it's about the kind of Uganda we want to build and the kind of Uganda we actually are building, literally. To give you some perspective as to the impact of buildings in the environment, buildings and the environment, buildings are critical to human life and society, providing shelter, fundamental human rights, and also driving economic growth. According to the World Economic Forum, globally, and actually we find the numbers tally in Uganda, the construction industry is a key player in the economy, accounting for about 30%, no, 15% of GDP, 40% of jobs in the private sector. Much as we value the assets and the structures that we create, they are also responsible for massive damage to the environment through excessive use of scarce natural resources, forest, timber, water, energy, and from pollution caused both in the process of building and in the use of buildings once occupied. Buildings account for 36% global fossil fuel energy, 40% of global carbon emissions, 25% of timber, 16% of world's fresh water, and 50% of global material use. Evidently, as the population grows and demands for houses, schools, and infrastructure continue, there's a need to ensure that sustainability all aspects of projects to mitigate the negative impacts of buildings on the climate, on the environment, and on their users. So in what way does buildings and plastic intersect, and how can we respond to that? The built environment has been called the sleeping giant, and for most of the global south, it probably is. We have a fast-growing, very young population who will at some point need houses, schools, hospitals, roads, and all the infrastructure that supports that. To the extent that the sector is an active player, there's a huge, vast, untapped potential for impactful action, both in terms of controlling waste generally and plastic pollution specifically, but also seeing that we pivot towards a different way, an alternate way, a much more circular way of dealing that would minimize these impacts. In this regard, plastic pollution is defined as the accumulation, as we all know, it's defined as the accumulation of plastic objects and particles in the Earth's environment that adversely affect humans, wildlife, and their habitat. Buildings and the construction sector accounts for 20% of global plastics consumption, according to it comes window framing, paint, and other perspectives, the most popular being PVCs, HDPEs, and expanded polystyrene. Whilst it is favored for the most part, lightweight and ease of installation, it does carry very serious costs in terms of the damage. Waste ends up in landfills and in oceans and ultimately in our ecosystem. Microplastics, especially tiny fragments of plastic, can also contaminate the environment, and which has led to campaigns and efforts to reduce plastic waste in construction, focusing on minimizing usage, recycling, and innovative repurposing of plastic materials. So clearly, in a context where Uganda has a population of 49 million growing at a rate of 3.9% per annum, and where urban centers are being set up at a rate of 5.1% per annum, and where every day hundreds of thousands of people are coming into urban areas, looking for work, looking to settle, there is a clear need to not only think about, but now actively support directions towards building a greener future. So, what does that entail? Well, obviously it entails collaboration, innovation, and ultimately, we believe, the realization and a commitment to optimize what is a window of opportunity, insofar as the young population and pending urban transition can be harnessed as positive drivers for growth in a way that disassociates the building and construction from an increase in carbon emissions and allows us to leapfrog from the mistakes that were made elsewhere, and do so in a way by embracing climate positive and sustainability focused policies and regulations. There's a need for robust regulatory framework, obviously. Okay. 70% new construction offers a significant opportunity for climate mitigation, in particular because 70% or half the buildings expected to be up by 2040 have yet to be built, giving us a chance, as I said, for us to build better and do better. This is particularly important when we consider that between now and 2030, it has been projected that over 80% of the growth in floor area will occur in low-income countries, many of which at the moment do not have robust building codes, nor climate-aligned and sustainability-focused regulatory processes. Okay. So we have a growing population, and we have needs for housing, and we have needs for all the good things that come with that. Are we